Hi, welcome to the Naked Bite Kitchen. I'm Amber Antonelli. I'm going to show you an awesome recipe today, one of my most requested and one of my favorite comfort foods. Twice baked sweet potatoes with roasted kale or sauteed kale and goat cheese. There's a ton of different variations that you can do, but this is a much healthier take on a classic twice baked potato. Next, I'm going to caramelize some onions and garlic. Saute this with a little bit of coconut oil, a couple of tablespoons. And then into the pan go the onions. This is not your store-bought chopped garlic, make no mistake. Then I'm going to saute this until it starts to caramelize. So while the onions are sauteing, I'm going to prepare the kale. And I want to remove it from the stem. This has been washed really well. And then just take my knife through and cut them about 1/8 of an inch thin. Okay, don't forget your onions. So about 7 to 8 minutes later, the garlic has started to brown. The onions are getting caramelized. It's nice the garlic gets a little on the crispy side. It gives it a little bit of depth and nuttiness. So I'm going to take my kale and add it to the pan. Handy scraper, one of my favorite tools. You can find that on our website. Saves the edge of your knife. I'm going to add some filtered water just to help cook the kale a little bit more quickly. And I'm going to stir that and cook for about another 5 minutes. And then our sweet potatoes are done. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut them down the middle. And this guy, because it's so big, I'm actually going to cut into quarters. And this one I'll just cut directly in half. So the idea is that 1/2 is 1 serving, but it always depends on the size of the sweet potato. Stir my kale first. You want to keep the skin intact, so be careful about that. I want to scoop the flesh into a bowl. And I want to do that kind of making a little moat, if you will, or like a canoe. For lack of a better word. When I'm teaching cooking classes, that word always comes to me, a little canoe. So you're scraping out the inside, but you want to leave a little bit of the body intact so that it has structure to hold the filling. But if you end up doing that and going all the way through, don't fret, my dears. You can just smash it back in and pretend like nothing happened. It's perfect. Okay, so that goes back on the baking sheet. And then I'm going to continue with the rest of them. Okay, so now we have all of the flesh scooped out, and I just go through and kind of mash any of the bigger chunks. The best way to tell if your sweet potato is ready is, you know, when you squeeze it, you want it to give really easily. So here I have my sauteed kale and onions. You can also make these entirely plant-based and omit the cheese altogether. And when I do that, I like to add walnuts. And when I add walnuts, I will add them to the saute pan and toast them a little bit. But today I'm going to show you both different versions at the same time. So salt, fresh cracked pepper, mixing it really well. It's an itty bitty spoon. No, it's perfect. It doesn't need any more oil, especially because we're going to add the goat cheese to some of it. So what I want to do, because I'm going to show you how to add walnuts without sauteing them, I'm going to divide it down the middle. Right, so 1/2 of the filling is going to get about 1/3 of a cup of chopped walnuts, and then those are going to go in your little canoes. And then the other half is going to get a few little crumbles of goat cheese. So I'm going to mix that up really well, nice and creamy. Okay, so then I'm going to just top it with a touch more cheese. I don't use a lot of dairy in my cooking, but when I do, I like to try to use goat and sheep's milk, because people that can't tolerate dairy very well, it's easier for them to tolerate. Plus, it's just delicious. So I'm going to finish topping these, and then it's going to go back in the oven that you left on from baking the sweet potatoes to begin with. So here you go. About 10 to 12 minutes later, you want the tops to be nice and golden brown. Now I want to give it a taste. Let's see. Hopefully I don't burn my mouth. That's delicious. You get a little bit of the texture from the kale, and the creaminess and tanginess from the goat cheese. For this recipe and more, you can click the link below to go to our website, or you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Thanks so much for learning to eat healthier one naked bite at a time. Ciao.